living abroad for however long you go abroad, whether it's your whole life or it's, just it's a few years, maybe even a few months. I love to see it as an invitation. It's an
Yep.
invitation to go deeper. And I
Yep.
think a lot of times the struggles people have are because they don't want to go deeper, because it's scary, because we don't have the tools usually to deal with that kind of stuff.
Hi, I'm Mickelle Weber, founder of House of Peregrine. This show is for life abroad and those crafting their life story with intention. I bring you conversations about international finances, meaning making, relationships, and parenting. I bring on the experts to help you on your journey so that you can connect more deeply with yourself, the people around you, and the place you currently call home. Find out more at houseofperegrine.com, where you can find exclusive guides, products, software, and a community that's waiting to welcome you. Welcome to House of Peregrine. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the House of Peregrine podcast. I'm Mickelle Weber, and I am so glad you are here with us. If you've ever lived abroad, you know this feeling. You look up one day and realize the version of you that made sense back home doesn't quite fit anymore. You're not in crisis exactly, but you are in between. You're reorienting and you're becoming someone new. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the logistics of life between cultures, it's what happens inside while you are becoming. My guest today is Melissa Parks. She's the author of the memoir, A Compassionate Mess, A Therapist, Her Monsters, and a Journey to Self-Acceptance. She holds a Ph.D. and is a therapist turned coach who spent more than a decade living and working in Spain and the Netherlands, supporting globally mobile people through identity shifts, transitions, and the emotional complexity of belonging in more than one place. She is also the co-founder of the Location Independent Therapist community. Her work there is rooted in something that sounds simple, but is genuinely radical when you're in a season of change: self-compassion. You might already think you know what that is, but I can assure you we have new insight for you today. Melissa now finds herself living in Seattle with her husband and 2 kids in an intercultural Spanish-English family. But as you'll hear, part of her heart will always belong to Madrid. So she now has the full experience of repatriation to add to her life experiences. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you as well, Mikhail. Thank you so much for inviting me to come on. And I'm so excited to see where we take things because I'm like, oh, you gave my full story right there. I mean, where are we going to go?
So many trailheads. Yes. And
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of reading an advanced copy of your book, which I really appreciate and enjoyed very
Yeah.
much. And so I want to start. Tell us just briefly your path of being an international person and a little, you go over it in the book, but maybe give us the quick version.
The summarized version.
Yeah.
Yes, well, yeah, if you want the full version, get the book. But well, from reading my book, it really moving abroad for me. I grew up in Seattle, grew up here in a suburb of Seattle. Nobody would have thought that I was going to go abroad. So when I had a plan to do grad school in the US, and that was 2008, and the economy fell apart here. And so I was like, I need a plan B. I'm going to go do a gap year, like what they call it in Europe, a gap year. And I'm going to go to Spain and I'm going to teach English. And then I stayed there for 10 years. So that's the most summarized version of the story. Nobody thought I was going to come back though either. That's the interesting thing too, even though in my heart, I really wanted to find a way to be near my family again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Listen, I'm 10 years into a 1-year move abroad, so I get
You know, you know how
it.
that happens.
Places like that. I mean, that's the thing about chapters and seasons of our lives is place plays a big part in that. And so you've done the full version of place and
Yeah.
change and all of this. But what I loved about your book is you told it in this personal way as a memoir instead of academic paper or something.
Yeah.
And so maybe tell me what what started as a breakup was so much more.
Yeah. Well, I always knew I wanted to probably to write a book. I hoped that if I went abroad, I would have a story, even in that was only supposed to be 1 year, maybe I'd come home with some stories to write. I would have never guessed that the start of my story as my book was a breakup. It was 4 years into my time abroad. I stayed abroad for grad school and also because I met somebody there. And I kind of thought that was, I was going to stay in Spain forever and this was going to be a relationship that would last forever. Uh, I'm really glad it didn't. Looking, but that was, with hindsight.
Yeah.
And it my life exploded but in the very best of ways. It took me to my own therapy, which I dabbled in therapy before, but had kind of my own training. I went to grad school in Spain, and my training was very much like you are the expert, you are the one you are perfect. I don't think anybody ever said that, but it was very much like the patient is the one with the problem. The therapist is the one with the expertise. Uh, that
Mm.
didn't really ever jive with me, but I didn't feel like I had the space to or the encouragement to go seek therapy. And
So
so
the
it really took
therapist got broken up with and then found her own therapy.
yes.
And
It was
you
the only
you got
choice.
broken up with while you were in another country. That's another.
Yes. It's just so unbelievable now when again, it's great. I turned it into a book. But when I think back to that time in my life, it was weeks before my sister's wedding. I was in Seattle. My boyfriend at the time, who again I had been with for about 4 years then, called me over Skype from our apartment that we lived in together and told me it wasn't gonna work. I was like, you're supposed to come here in 2 weeks. Like, we're going to on a trip to Alaska together that we planned. He's like, yeah, I've been thinking about this for months. What?
Yeah, and in those cases, it's not simple, especially when visas and apartments and these things.
Exactly.
These are things that often are so romantic to have in
Oh,
a love affair
yeah.
abroad, but they come with real life consequences, and breakups aren't just breakups. So
Yeah,
maybe was that part
exactly.
of your story there?
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't know which scenario, like which vision of my future flashed through my head first. Was it the my heart is broken, we're not going to be together anymore? Or was it, I'm supposed to like, you're the ticket to my visa and like my work permission and my possibilities. I just finished my master's. And so I was pursuing the opportunity to work as a therapist in Spain. And I was like, but that's tied to you. We just had a domestic partnership that we set up. So like, wait,
Oh,
how is this happening?
oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
And
So I
that
talked
makes it, yeah, so much more than a breakup.
so much more than a breakup. Yeah. I mean, I lost, it's like everything you could lose in a breakup. But I mean, anyone who's lived abroad knows too, like how much your partner can mean. My partner was Spanish. So it was also my connection to the culture. His family was my family. It was really hard. And my therapist at the time was like, it's like you're a table that got all its legs cut off. And that really, I felt that to my core. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
what do I do now? Right? Like, what in the world do I do now? I didn't even know if I was going to go back to Spain. I think I was home for 6 weeks at that point, back in Seattle, and everyone was telling me, just stay, right? Like, we'll be here for you.
Sure.
But
So
I
what
had a
took you
whole life
back?
back then.
Yeah, your life there was stronger than your life. Not
Yeah, it
stronger,
was.
but that's what.
I don't know that my life was stronger. I think it was part of it was a stubbornness, like that
Mm.
I didn't want he wasn't the reason I moved abroad. I moved abroad
Yeah,
for myself. I didn't
yeah,
want someone else to be my reason for staying home. I didn't have a very clear plan for what I would do if I stayed at home. I knew I'd have my
mm,
family and my friends that I had grown up with, but I didn't know what my next chapter in Spain was going to look like. But it was like a gut instinct, right? I think so much of the like when we live
yeah,
these lives abroad, so much of it is based on like our gut feeling, right?
yep.
Because it's not logical to move yourself halfway around the world.
It is not. That is the truest thing anyone's ever said on my podcast. It's
Yeah.
like it's more like a love affair than it is
Yes.
a logical choice. That
Yes.
is, please say that again. We can say that again a bunch of times. It is
Yes.
not logical
It
to
was
move
not
across the
logical.
world.
And it wasn't logical to go back either, but
Yeah.
it was like a love affair, right? Like I couldn't, yeah, I'd lost this love of my life. So he wasn't the love of my life, but like, I had this love that I had with him was like, okay, well, that's gone. Oh, but I still have the love for Spain. I fell in love with Spain when I went there for the first time in my 20s, on a study abroad trip. And I had never thought that I would. I wanted to go abroad in college again it was a gut instinct kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't anticipate like the love that would await me there with Spain and that I would suddenly think to myself, okay, maybe I don't want to live in the US for the rest of my life. Maybe there's this whole world out there. But yeah, mostly it was Spain. Again, you read that my heart is still in Madrid. It really is. Even, my husband, he has Spanish citizenship, and we talk all the time about like, should we go back? When will we go back? And I wish I could live in two places at once, honestly. Maybe three, because I loved my life in Amsterdam too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what we talk about a lot here is that your home is never one place again, your heart is in multiple
Yes.
places, and that's the heartbreak of this life. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is, and no one really prepares you for it, which is what I'm trying to do.
Yes,
Is it's worth it. It's just like falling in love, right? It's better to have
it
loved and
is.
lost than never to have loved at all, but it is an expected change in this
Yes,
constitution of your life. Um,
absolutely.
and so I want to talk about that a little bit. Like
Yeah.
that compound grief that
Yeah.
you are talking about, we can name it. It's compound grief because you hadn't just lost a
Yeah.
partner, you'd lost your home, your visa, your support system, and your family. So that it's more than a breakup is the technical term, since you are a PhD, is compound grief. And so how did naming that help you? Or how does that help when you're explaining these things to people that are going
Yeah.
through whether losses or even gaining things? It's you're always
Yeah.
losing. So when you move abroad, you're losing time with your family. There's always two sides or multiple sides to every big life event. And so how do you
Definitely.
walk your patients through this or how do you explain it
Yeah.
to them?
Yeah. So I do think naming it is huge. And I guess what I often think about is like, I don't know, I love like metaphors or just ways to like visualize things and thinking about it. You know, we talk about like people you have a lot on your plate, right? And it kind of is that, right? Like thinking about, or how my therapist said it, right? Like, what were all the
Yeah.
things holding you up that you just lost? So, whatever metaphor it is we use, I think some way to visualize what it is that you're holding, because that's really the only way we can bring in self compassion, right? Is like we really have to look at it, even though we
And so
don't want to.
walk me through that exercise because
Yeah.
self-compassion is not the word that I would have brought to this. And so I really want you to
Okay.
weave it through
Yeah.
this idea of this compound grief or
Yeah.
loss. So let's weave it through
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
again, that's not a word I would have used and that means we need to talk about it.
So it's self-compassion, it's mindful self-compassion. And so really it's the very first step of self-compassion is being mindful. And being mindful is acknowledging without getting sucked into it what we have right in front of us. And so that's
Mm,
that's what I'm talking about is like looking at it, facing it head on, acknowledging everything that you're carrying. So
mm,
I think so often we don't want to do that because it's like, ugh, if I acknowledge all of it, everything that I've lost, that is just going to weigh me down. Um, I'm not going
yeah.
to be able to get out of that. But really, I think it's so important because how can we bring self compassion, or how can we, another way to talk about it is validate ourselves and say, this is so hard. Look how much I'm dealing with right now. How can we do
Yeah.
that if we don't actually acknowledge everything we're carrying?
Look at this immense loss. Look at everything that's
Yes.
going away or is no longer available
Yes.
to you. That's the first step.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. The very first step is just acknowledging how hard that is. And then the next step, and I'm going to walk you through self compassion now. So we've got mindfulness,
Perfect.
the
Yeah.
mindfulness of self compassion, acknowledging everything. And again, not getting sucked into it, right? Like, so just not getting sucked into like, I guess sucked into the grief of it or like the wallowing in it. We want to feel the feeling, but we don't want to like over identify with the feeling. We
Yep.
don't want to get again sucked into it. And then a big piece that people don't have any idea about that is part of self-compassion is common humanity. And
Mm,
it's one my clients struggle with so much because so often they're like, this shouldn't be a big deal. Like there are people in the world who are
yeah.
suffering so much more. It doesn't
Yep.
it doesn't I mean, it doesn't matter is what I'm going to say. But I mean, obviously those things matter. But what matters is that anyone going through your difficult situation, even though it might not be uncommon or might not be very common, people maybe aren't talking about it, right? I think we don't talk enough about the challenges of globally mobile life.
Yep.
Even though people aren't talking about it, it is so hard. And it's something another person would struggle with too. Like you're
Yeah.
not alone. Even though you might feel alone with the pain, you're not alone. And so that's like the second piece And then is the self-kindness piece, which is what we usually think about with self-compassion. That's talking to ourselves like a friend, like a therapist, like sometimes I tell people like, if your dog could talk, what would they say to you right now?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's our pets who love us so much, and that's the kind of love and unconditional love that we need to tap into. Um,
And so
this
that
is
would
not
look like that would something like, "Look at how much you're carrying, you're doing so much." This is talking to
yeah.
yourself in almost like the 3rd person, is that
Yes.
or
So
like
like
witnessing yourself?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I never thought about, like, how yeah, but I guess it like, so I might say something to myself like, "Melissa, this is so hard." Um,
Yeah,
anyone else, like, dealing with this would be having such a hard time too. You're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you.
yeah,
I'm here for you. That's something we can say. Or, "You've got this." It can be, it can
yeah,
be something as simple as, "You've got this," right? Like, you've been through other hard things, and, I believe in you. Really, I mean, you gotta bring your
yeah,
own kind of flair into it, your own personality.
yeah,
And the thing I was gonna say too is this is not easy, right? I'm kinda like, "Okay, you do step 1, step 2, step 3."
yeah,
This is not easy. We don't do this. We don't talk to ourselves like this. So, um, it
yep.
takes so much practice to be
It
able
does
to
take so
read
much
ourselves in this
practice.
way.
But this does bring you more fully into being able to soothe yourself, especially in
Yeah.
systems
Mhm.
where there's not a lot of support or voice or knowledge in how to support someone through this. And so,
Yes.
even if done imperfectly, just having a resource, even if it's
Yep.
hard, is better than having no resource at all. So that would be,
Yes.
and so what is
Mhm.
is there a fourth step?
There's not a 4 it's just 3 steps.
Three
But
steps.
that's why I
Okay.
said it's not simple, but it's just 3
Yep.
steps.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and
And so those
that's
are really good. Yeah, those are really good
mhm,
to go over. And then also, as an example, it would be like in your case, Melissa,
mhm,
look at everything you've lost, your visa, your home,
mhm,
your love, your extended family there. Anyone in your situation would feel overwhelmed and like they don't know where
mhm.
to go and like their life is falling apart.
Yeah,
We can just take the next big step. We've got this. We'll be okay. That would be an
yeah.
example of using all 3 steps.
Yes, Mickelle, that was great. I wish I could send you back in time and tell myself that, because I didn't have self-compassion back then. I didn't know this, but I had a therapist, and that, she was like my compassionate voice, right? Who was helping me, to very
Yep.
slowly learn some of this stuff.
Yeah, and be a witness to what you're going through because
Yes.
would you say, and this is just a question, and partially my experience has been, but not a lot of people understand that. They'll think, "Oh, it's just a breakup." And that your family back home can't quite understand because
Yes.
they just see it as a breakup and actually a bonus because you might come back. So your best friends.
Mhm.
So it's really sometimes difficult to find even therapists that understand the full
Yeah.
complexity of what's happening for you when it just looks like a breakup.
I know. I know. I think before it happened to me, I don't think I would have had the same level of empathy. I think I
Yeah.
might have just seen it as a breakup. I say I needed that breakup in order to become a good therapist, because I
Yeah.
had to live that feeling of feeling like your life is falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't just a breakup, and I got very lucky, I think, that I found a therapist who she validated for me that it wasn't just a breakup, that I
Yeah.
had lost everything. And that's what I was like, "Oh god, I'd been thinking that this just isn't a big deal and I should just snap out of it." And,
Yep.
my
But
inner critic.
your body really knew. Your body knew, your maybe your subconscious before she was able to surface these
Yeah.
things, your body knew, and that's why the work is so
Oh, yeah.
important. And so on that,
Yes.
sometimes our body does do that. And
Yeah.
even when it's good news, like a relocation, when you're excited and
Yeah.
you're ready for a new adventure, you're still there's a lot of things that come up or are stored
Yeah.
or are happening that we may not be aware of. And so yeah,
Yeah.
this is when sometimes we see stress on relationships that wasn't there before, or on
Mhm.
children, or
Yeah.
on finances, or on your body, where in
Mhm.
your experience you had physical symptoms that you could not
Yeah.
explain. And so, talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I talk about it in the book. Like, I I think I am logically, like, I guess, theoretically good at transitions. Like, I know what you
Yeah.
need. I know how transitions work. I know they're difficult, but I can't convince my body of that. am trying to accept, is still trying to accept that it is really hard on my body to go through big changes, like a big
Yeah.
move. Or more in more recent years, I found this like when I've had children, um,
Hmm.
especially that first child. I was like, my body was like, this is so too much, too much.
Yep.
But in the book, I talk about how, yeah, with relocation, I had panic attacks, I had insomnia, stomach distress. My body was saying, like, I love the adventure of it. Again,
Hmm.
my mind loves it, and I love the stimulation and the learning and everything, but my body is kinda, like, dragging its feet through the whole thing, and it is physiological overwhelm.
Yeah.
And part of me just wants to be like, "Oh, well, body, like, just deal with it."
Yeah.
But no,
And
of
I
course
and
not,
I s-
right?
and I see that as one trait that people who move abroad on purpose, or like, they have usually an unusual amount of ability to push past that stuff,
Yeah,
like you.
yeah,
And then the body catches up somewhere, relationship, it catches you somewhere.
yeah,
And whether it's in your body or, again, like I said, all the other places. And
yeah,
so how can we do that more mindfully?
yes. Yeah,
Um, this is what I'm always encouraging people to do, because I truly believe it makes for a healthier place you're going, place you're leaving,
mhm,
family systems, is approaching something like this with a little bit. And sometimes people say, if I knew, I wouldn't have done it. Right. So that's part of it. Like,
yeah,
if I knew what it would have cost me, I wouldn't do it. So I had to just leap. And I understand that. But there is a big movement of people moving countries that's larger
yes,
than it's ever been.
yeah,
And so I would love to encourage people to do this a bit more mindfully, knowing. And so what would you suggest? Like, is there something small or effective that you've seen that can help people
yeah,
maybe do this a little bit more mindfully, so that it's not such
mhm,
a trauma on the body, on the system, on place?
yeah. It's very true. I think, yeah, I've definitely had those moments where I look back and think, "If I knew everything, would I have
Yes.
gone?"
Yeah, no.
But
That's why
I
it's called
think
an adventure. We get it.
just go. No, but I agree. I really encourage people to also be intentional about it. Be intentional about your move. I think a few things. A very small thing is just taking some time to be with yourself, right? Because I think we can get so caught up with the to-do list and, the
Yeah.
logistical to-do list, like, but also thinking about the emotional and mental well-being to-do list, which is spending some time with yourself, saying goodbye. That's something that and myself included, usually don't like are those goodbyes, but
And
closing.
we have ceremonies for that, just so you know. House of Peregrine makes
Ooh,
ceremonies for that.
that's
So,
amazing. I love
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
love
But
that.
but
It's
keep
so
going.
important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's if you want to open up a new chapter abroad, it's so important to close that last chapter. And it doesn't mean that you're never moving back, right? But
Yep.
life will never be the same again,
Mm.
right? So I really like thinking about it like
Yeah.
in terms of a book, right? Like, this is the end of this
Yep.
chapter, we're starting a new chapter.
Yep. And that is true whether you move abroad or not, but
Yes, it
it's less
is.
stark. It's less
Yes.
stark. It's less clear. And it's also something that comes through in career transitions. Like, more
Yeah.
and more people don't have the same career for their entire career. They
Yes.
change careers or industries. And so
Mhm.
these transitions, if not done mindfully, is they catch up. And so I love
Yeah.
this. So keep going. I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's okay. Well, I just think you made me think of something there too. I think when we have these big transitions, we have to be ready for the grief that can come with them. Um, Even if it's a positive thing, it's a loss, right? You're saying goodbye to something, you're losing something. And I think in our culture, in our most of not most of the world, but just like in probably the culture a lot of your listeners are from, those cultures are not good at dealing with grief.
Yeah.
And so we just try to hurry past it, and that, then we bring baggage with ourselves.
Yeah. And I would also add, feel like you don't have the right to the grief. That's
Mhm.
something. When I was leaving, I was like, I have no right to feel sad.
Mm.
I'm the one choosing to leave. Everyone else is
Yes.
sad. I am getting something new. I'm having an adventure. I'm so
Yeah.
lucky. But I didn't give myself permission to have the grief and to have the goodbyes because I didn't think that it was available. Like I shouldn't like I was doing the bad thing. I was leaving, right? And
Yes.
so that was a big part of my journey is being like,
Yeah.
no, I also am sad. That doesn't mean
Yes.
I don't want to do it, but I'm also sad and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to the book but it's something I've seen with clients too, is really just letting yourself feel all the feelings. Like I have this scene in my book where I talk about I'm getting ready to repatriate. I'm going through my clothes that I'm not gonna bring with me. And and I just kind of collapse in a ball of tears on the bed. And 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 I say if somebody would have walked in, they would have thought that somebody had died. And they hadn't. And my inner critic was definitely like there saying like you're overreacting. But I had the self-compassion to lean on to be like,
Yep.
this is the grief of repatriation. Um,
Yep.
and it could be the same as this is the grief of moving abroad because it's still so hard to leave a life behind. You can have both things. You can
Yep.
feel excited and grieve at the same time. And I think we also don't know how to hold such conflicting feelings.
Yeah. That paradox is something you get a lot more practice with when you live abroad
Yes.
than maybe in everyday life. But
Yes.
there is a death and it's the death of the
Mhm.
person that you have been. And
Yeah.
that's a true, it doesn't have to be a physical death to be an ending in a death. And so that's a really, really good point.
Mhm.
And maybe someone would have said, maybe you shouldn't do this. That's the other thing. It seems like you don't want to do this because you're so upset.
Yes.
And it's like, that's not it either.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want this. You can't
Yeah.
handle this. Uh, that's why I have a lot of clients who tell me like they come to me because they're just in so much distress or overwhelm. This must be a sign that this is a bad idea, or this must be a sign that I made a mistake. And I'm like, well, maybe, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to,
They're,
invalidate that, but it's usually not that. It's usually just that we
yeah.
don't know how to deal with these tough feelings, and so peeling it back and kind of seeing more of what's there and learning tools to manage some of those feelings. That's what I'd say to, to anybody who's like trying to do this intentionally is like work on your toolbox now, maybe get a therapist or coach now before you even go, or just like at least have some
Yeah.
names, or find a community like yours, right? So because that's gosh, that common humanity piece I mentioned earlier, that doesn't just mean reminding ourselves like in a vacuum that we're not alone. It also
Yep.
means connecting with people, finding your community in person, online, so you could talk about this really hard stuff and be reminded that you're not alone.
Yeah. And people need people and that
Yes.
your neighbors in Madrid or in the Netherlands are not going to understand your process. They're
No,
not going to
no.
understand the unique challenges. That's what we always say.
Yeah.
So I really liked the way I'm just moving on from this. I
Yeah.
want to step into another portal that you had, which is
Yeah.
you use the word home in a really layered way throughout the book. Um,
Yeah.
and that resonated. And I just want to go a little bit into that and just like really make it concrete for people about
Yeah.
what you're, how you're using it. So just tell us what
Yeah. I
about
know.
home.
Well, even as you said, like, what is home? Like, how do we define? I feel like this is, yes, I write about it a lot in the book, but also
Yeah.
it's a question I still like explore. What does it mean to be
Yeah.
at home?
Yep.
Um, I mean, yeah, because like you were saying earlier, if your heart is broken in multiple places around the globe, like, what does that mean about where home is? I think for me, what I've mostly landed on, again, although I still like, you know, roll it around in my
It's,
head, but
yes, it's in progress, just like the
it's
rest of us.
in like yes, like I say, we're on there's no destination. We're on a journey. Um,
Yep.
but I really think like it's this feeling of feeling at home or feeling belonging and acceptance in your own body and with your own self. Um, that's what I've landed on more. Like when I think about going home, I think about like a place where you feel safe, where you can like take off your shoes and you can be who you just be completely yourself. And I do
Yep.
think that comes with the belonging. I think that comes with the self acceptance. And I do feel like I can say I feel at home with myself now in a way that I never would have been able to when I was moving abroad.
Yeah. And that's layered, right? So I wanted to
Yeah.
say two things about that. I
Yeah.
want to, with permission,
Yeah.
talk about, I think it's okay to talk about your neurodivergent journey is
Yes.
one
Yes. Yes.
part.
Yes. Let's talk about it.
And then the other part I want to talk about is like code switching and how that fits
Mm,
into the self. Because my kids will
yes.
say, when I speak Dutch, I feel like one kind of person. And then it's not that I change, but I just have another version. It's both me. And so I'd like to,
Yes.
if we can't, those are two huge subjects, but I would
Yeah. I
like
know. I'm
to,
like, which one do we start with?
let's start with that one, the multi selves. And then I would like
Yeah.
to talk about your journey of that new layer of
The
awareness in yourself.
neurodivergence.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
talk about code switching, or how do you refer to it when you are
Yeah.
maybe have different parts of yourself?
Hmm. Oh, I don't know if I actually have a good way to talk about it. I
Uh,
know one way I don't like to talk about it very much is like the chameleon. I feel like the chameleon
yeah.
feels too much like the mask, which
Yep.
we'll get to also with the
Ooh, that's
neurodivergent
such a
piece.
good point. Oh, that's the other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to cover. Yes. So,
Yeah.
so maybe let's go through your lens of chameleon and your story
Yes.
of being the queen of
Yeah.
Seattle.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. So I feel like, yeah, for so much of my life, it was more like, what do other people need of me? Brene Brown talks about something like related to this that I like, which is the fitting in versus belonging.
Mhm.
And yeah, gosh, so I spent most of my life trying to fit in. I did
Mhm.
not. I think I had certain spaces where I felt like I belonged, but I had no clue of what belonging even was. Right? I mean, but not that I
Yeah.
even knew that I didn't know what belonging
Yep.
was. Um, and so I think I,
You just became whoever
interestingly
you
enough,
needed to be.
it's whoever I needed to be. I mean, honestly, without even realizing it, I would walk into a room and just, you know, so figure out, okay, who do I need to show up as here? And I was really good at it. And I did a lot of cool things. Like I was the queen of Seattle. But I wasn't, it was slowly eating me alive. And I think maybe on some level, like my body knew that. And that's why I was like, well, okay, let's go to the other side of the world and we'll figure out like who you actually are. Um, which
Eat,
is
pray,
very
love style.
romanticized. And what was that?
It's like eat, pray, love.
Well, I mean, Eat, Pray, Love was a huge, huge inspiration for me. So kind of.
Yep. Yep.
Although I was very happy I met my husband, but I was happy that like my takeaway was a little bit more self-love related. But let's see.
So from going to
Uh
the chameleon,
yeah. So the
how do
chameleon,
we, yeah, go ahead.
I'm kind of thinking out loud here as I'm talking about it, as I'm like, I definitely wanted to move away from that. I definitely wanted to. So when this was something that happened with the breakup, I think up until that point, when my life abroad, I was still trying to fit in. And honestly, knowing how to fit in really helps when you go abroad, right? That's the tricky thing. It
Yep.
helps so much. And so I
Yep.
think what I will say, like, so then after that, I was like, okay, maybe I should stop trying to be Spanish. Like, I think that's one thing I wanted. I was like, I want to have all the Spanish friends and speak Spanish. And I'm gonna be, belong. Well, but I wasn't really belonging. I was fitting in with all the Spanish people, and I did it. And it helped me with my grad school program, but it cost me so much because, and that's the thing. That's the thing I want to say is like, I think part of it is just finding like the fine line, like where can you go into spaces and know who you need to be and how you need to show up. Um, but also maybe limit those spaces, right? Um,
Yep.
yeah. But then it is an interesting question, as you say, like, what if you belong in several different spaces? And so you kind of have a true, authentic version of yourself that's different in those different spaces.
I've heard some people describe it as the same way we're describing place, which is you're actually
Mhm.
never at home or fully at home in one
Yeah.
place. So you're a little
Yeah.
bit fragmented, but
Yes.
becoming okay with that is how I've heard some people describe it, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're both me, but luckily, like I have different versions of myself that are all the
Yeah.
same root. But
Yeah.
that's the kaleidoscope of my personality is it includes these different um,
Yeah.
permutations of it, um,
Yes.
which is where I think it's not the same, but like when on your journey to discovering, because you were, tell us your journey about becoming, realizing that you're neurodiverse, maybe, and this
Yeah.
plays a little bit in here. And I do think as a higher population of neurodiversity in the population of international people than the normal population, according to some research that we'll link below. And so
Interesting.
I really want to talk about that a little bit with you as part of like not knowing something
Yeah.
about yourself and this greater
So
self-knowing.
yes. So it's an interesting thing in my book, and I haven't been talking about it a lot because I don't think it's the biggest takeaway of the book,
Yeah.
but it was something I felt like I had to include in the book.
Mm.
But I include it kind of as, like, as a footnote at the very, not a footnote, but it's in the afterword. I knew I was differently wired in some sort of way. I talk about being highly sensitive and how healing that was for me to realize, like, I'm a deeply feeling person. Um,
Yeah.
but it wasn't until I was like almost finished with the book that I started to think, I actually think I'm autistic. And that was
Mm.
something, it was kind of it was reading about my childhood and realizing, like, kind of seeing my childhood through this unmasked lens of like, oh, I was like a very rigid thinker. It was very exhausting for me to be in social situations. I was always going into those situations trying to figure out how I was supposed to show up. And then something to add too is that I don't mention this in the book, but maybe it'll be the next book. My son was diagnosed with autism, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, if he's autistic, I'm autistic. Like,
Chances are that's what kind of happens in the room, right? Like you get someone tells you this about your child and then they kind of look at you like, well, this is highly genetic. And they look back and forth and
mhm. And we've learned so much about, like, we've learned so much about neurodivergence, like autism, ADHD, the whole umbrella of
yep,
neurodivergence in women since I was growing up in the 80s and 90s.
yep,
Um, so much about that, and also like the more L like, less typical version, I guess, or just like the maybe somebody who needs less support needs or, like, less pronounced symptoms. I mean, I got trained as a psychologist, and I didn't know what autism was. So if I don't know what it is,
yep.
like, the general population probably isn't gonna know.
Yeah. It's
Um
like an emerging field at best.
Yes, it is, and something, like, I've actually gotten an official diagnosis, now, but one thing, like, even the person who, the psychologist who diagnosed me was like, we talked about ADHD because I think it's that the ADHD is especially the common thing that shows up in expats because it's like that search for dopamine and new adventures and things, and
Yep,
I don't see that as much in my childhood, but it also it's hard when you have, like, the autism and ADHD, the ADHD, um,
yep,
it's hard to untangle, but I really wonder if that's the part of me. I talk about it, in a different lens in the book, like a high sensation seeker, and maybe it was, like,
yep,
that side of me
yep.
that was like, "Let's do it, let's go, let's buy the plane ticket," and then the,
Let's let's
autistic part is
forget.
like, "Ah,
Yeah. What were
what
we
did you
doing?
sign us up for?"
Where are we going again? We
Yes.
didn't tell you because we
Well,
thought you'd ruin it.
and we'll go, but only if we get to write a book about it.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, that's sophisticated coping right there. No, but
Thankfully.
I think this identity, this gaining an identity, not an identity, a diagnosis is an identity, but a new awareness about how you experience
Yeah.
the world differently than you thought you did and
Yeah.
differently than how you thought everyone else did is cultural in its own way.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so for me, in your book, like that's like you've had that experience too, like so many
Yes.
layers of deepening into yourself,
Mhm.
self-knowledge, self-learning to get to a place of coming home to yourself. That
Yeah.
is what makes it a rich experience instead of a traumatic experience, even though it can be both.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but these things, like they're going to find you
Mm,
in this
mhm.
journey because people who live in the same place their whole lives can sometimes ignore this stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't put as much pressure on your sense of self, your sense of culture, your sense of belonging. And so whether it's dysfunctional, functional, we're not going to talk about that, but I love your story because it goes through all these different layers of
Mm.
self-knowledge, and parses them out through this sense of, because going from a chameleon to here and then
Yeah.
repatriating has its own masks. And
Mm.
so that is a beautiful part of what you've brought to the world. And so I just really love that you've done that. and that you're helping other people do it. And so
Thank you.
that, how did that, I mean, I know you said that you've gone and you've taken your career with you because we know that you're never the same again. It's not like you're once
Yeah.
an expat and then you're not an expat anymore or an international person. This is
Yeah.
a permanent life change. Like this is a permanent
Yes.
paradigm shift you're signing up for. And so I want to talk to you as a last question,
Mhm.
like, how are you helping people
Mhm.
kind of land in this new reality? It's like, yeah, your kids, guess what? They're not, if you have kids, if you have a partner, you have a multicultural partnership, you said. And so
Yeah.
people don't often see these changes, but they are a paradigm shift. And so how are you helping them land
Yes.
in that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. You said something earlier, like your neighbors abroad won't understand what you're going through. My
Yeah.
neighbors, I live in the same. I moved back to the same suburb where I grew up. Like people see me and are like, "Oh, okay, you went and had your adventure. You're back."
Yep.
I'm like, "Wow, I'm a totally different person now." But
Yeah. Yeah. But
I'm
you seem the
totally
same.
different. Yeah.
I'm sure you're not, but you
Yes,
seem really the
you
same.
seem.
Uh,
Yeah. What have you been
yeah.
doing? That is not how I
Yeah.
see it. If
Well, but
anybody's
also,
listening, I don't judge you like that.
no, no, no. It's
Um,
not judging, but it is easier to talk about with them
yeah, yeah,
because it's not like you're going to be like, yeah, I lived in Paris and I did this and that is, and they're like, your life is a dream. And you're like, yeah, but I would like to talk about the hard.
totally.
That's
Yeah,
part of going deeper into a relationship is talking about both sides and they just can't see it. So it's easier to talk
yeah,
about them and what hasn't changed, I can imagine.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, life is life wherever you are in the world, no matter how glamorous it looks.
That's right.
Um, but back to your question, how do I
Yeah.
help people? And I think this is another one of those things that it's still a journey for me of figuring it out. But what I've found most, which I've kind of is that I support people through transitions. So whether that's you're getting ready to move abroad, you have moved abroad, you're getting ready to repatriate, you're trying to decide where to go next, that's when people reach out to me.
Mhm.
But so often that's where we start and that's not where we finish because
Mm.
it's like that's the beginning of the adventure of working with me. But so often, like for instance, I have clients, for instance, who will repatriate, and we need to work through the grief of saying goodbye and wondering if you made the right choice and dealing with the things, the feelings that come up that don't make sense. But then
Yep.
also, it's okay. So I used to live like a whole ocean away from my family. Um, I've realized that like I'm a different person than I was growing up, and that I don't want a relationship to be the same. Maybe it's dysfunctional now. So actually, I need to like learn some tools to deal with that.
Yeah.
Um, and that I love that work, like, that's the stuff that really lights me up.
Yeah.
So I love it when I work with people for a longer it doesn't have to be a long time, but, maybe it's just more than a few sessions that we work together. So I don't
Yeah.
tend to do coaching, like, I've tried out, like, packages and, like, let's work together 3 months and have this end goal. I just don't find that that's where I kind of jive with people. It usually
Mm.
is, like, let's get you in to work on this one thing, and then let's see if we wanna go deeper than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really smart, and it's also a relationship, right? And that's what people
Yeah.
sometimes the most effective therapy is it is a therapeutic relationship, right? And so
Yes.
it's hard, it's good to have boundaries on it, but
Yeah.
when you're dealing with these deeper, I mean, repatriating, expatriating, moving, it's like if people one person has one divorce in their life, that's like a defining moment to bring up personal stuff. But when you're doing all of
Mhm.
this, having babies, moving countries,
Yeah.
maybe getting divorced, maybe having a breakup, maybe your
Yeah.
parent dies, you
Yes.
are at such a high level of where your inner like stuff is being
Yeah.
tortured
Mhm,
or brought up
mhm.
or exercised or thriving.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
without someone to guide you, it can be it can, well,
Yeah.
first of all, it's less fruitful. It can be more damaging.
Yeah.
Again, this is where we get into some trauma. And so
Yes.
having a relationship with someone who can help you kind of conceptualize some of this stuff cannot be overstated.
Yeah, and that's what I found. So I'm trained as a therapist. I left like the therapy hat behind when I moved back to the US because therapy does not, I see this all the time in my work with location independent therapists. It does not work well across borders. There are therapists who are able to do it. It is tricky and just, it's a long story, but like I just decided that coaching is the better lens for how I can support people whose lives are probably going to take them all over the globe, and places that maybe
Yeah.
my license wouldn't have allowed me to continue working with them.
Yeah.
I have clients who reach out after years to ask me to work through something together,
Yeah.
and I want to be able to continue to offer that. So,
And that's a
yeah,
unique thing, right? Like licenses
yeah,
don't go across borders. And
yeah,
this is one of those things that is unique. If the systems and licenses and trainings and all these
yes,
infrastructure things we have that people take for granted if you stay in a country your whole life,
mm,
they don't translate. And so
yeah,
you have to evolve even more when you're living abroad, especially if you're
you
in a
do,
profession that requires a license, a nurse,
yeah,
a architect, a
yes,
teacher.
yeah,
These
absolutely,
things matter. And so this is your adaptation, and it also happens to
yeah,
work better for your style of working. But yeah,
yeah,
you're a
well,
360 example of or maybe even more dimensions of what this life brings up and about and brings you through.
yeah. Yeah, you're talking about it in such a positive way, which I love because I think about it in that way too. I think about that living abroad for however long you go abroad, whether it's your whole life or it's, just it's a few years, maybe even a few months. I
Yep.
love to see it as an invitation. It's an
Yep.
invitation to go deeper. And I
Yep.
think a lot of times the struggles people have are because they don't want to go deeper, because it's scary,
Yeah.
because we don't have the tools usually to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I didn't wanna go deeper, and life kind of forced me to go deeper when I had that breakup, and so, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of, I hope some people will read the book and realize, like, "Okay, this I want th not this exact experience, but I want to go deeper."
Yeah. Because again, most people have, everyone has grief, right? We're never
Yes.
making this out of life
Yes.
alive, and no one we care about.
Yeah.
So those big moments of whatever you want to call it, these opportunities, these breaks,
Mhm.
again, are fewer for people who live in the same place, and that's
Yeah.
merciful in some ways. Of
Yeah.
course, like your first loved one you lose, but if you live
Mhm.
abroad, or if you live abroad even as a kid, your loss ratio is much higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
with that, the opportunity to grow. And so
Yeah.
you don't get one without the other kids. I'm just saying.
You don't.
Yeah.
But I like to think it makes life richer too, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the more, not it's not exactly like it works like this, but you can't feel joy, full joy without feeling the pain too.
Yeah.
Not like you experience more grief, you get more joy, but
Yeah.
but you can't have the full expression of human emotions if you don't let yourself feel the hard things too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I want people to know. And I want they need
Yeah.
people around them because, again, like you said, we say it all the time at House of Peregrine, life will never be the same again. And the faster you can accept that, the more fun you can have, maybe. Because,
Yeah.
again, if you think that moving to a new country is not going to change you or your relationships or your finances or your parenting,
Yeah.
you're up for a rude awakening.
Yes. And also
Yeah.
that, like, 'cause I think a lot of times people are like, oh, it's going to change me, but it's going to be like so great and fun. But it's
You're
really
gonna
hard
be
to
crying on the floor.
change.
You're you're gonna be
Exactly.
on your bed crying like someone
Yes.
died, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't I I never try and scare anybody out of it. It's a little bit like parenthood too. It's like, yeah,
Yes.
but it's totally worth it.
That's it. I do think it's so much like parenting. And actually that's like the
Yeah.
next book I want to write is about parenting and the adventures of parenting and
Yeah.
realizing I'm neurodivergent as a parent because I do it's a journey into the unknown and it's again not logical, but it's so fulfilling. And it will tear you apart and put a mirror up to your face and show you all the things that ways you need to grow that maybe you don't want to.
And then
But
that
it's
puts you back
great.
together. Puts you back
Yes.
together. That usually
Exactly.
happens. That's what we're trying
Yeah.
to encourage.
Exactly.
But it is a brave thing to do, and I love
It's
that you
brave.
are helping people do this with
Yeah.
grace and being intentional and healthy and bringing your own story to the world. So thank you for writing this book. I can't wait for it to come out
Yeah.
and for people to read it. And tell me a little bit as we wrap up,
Yeah.
where can people reach out to you if they want to work with you or learn more about you?
Yeah. So, I mean, the best place is my website, melissaparks.com. There you'll find links to LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Not on TikTok, sorry. It's too
You're
overwhelming for
allowed.
my brain.
We'll allow it.
And right up there, you'll find links to sign up for my newsletter, learn more about my book. My book will be out June 23rd. And then if you sign up for emails about it, you'll also find out like when pre-orders open, which are going to be a couple weeks beforehand. It'll be available as an ebook or a physical copy to people around the world. So you'll
Nice.
be able to get your hands on it. And then also, I have something I'd invite your listeners to consider. I have it's like a 5-day inner critic to self compassion email series. So you'll be able to kind of learn a little bit more, go a little deeper with what I talked about today. And just try out some of those self compassion exercises yourself. And it's specifically for people who are living a globally mobile life. So I think might be a great fit if you've enjoyed what we've talked about today.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great resource. We'll link it below.
Great.
And yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for going all the places we went. We
Yeah,
covered a lot. So
we
I appreciate it. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining us on the House of Peregrine podcast. I would love for you to like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you know what we're talking about or if you want to add anything to the conversation that we might have missed. We would love to hear from you. We read every comment. Join us next time on the House of Peregrine podcast. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed our show. For the latest insights on living internationally, join us at houseofperegrine.com to find out how you can connect with our community. Let's craft our life story with intention together.